Now, on Enough Said, with KFAN Radio's Dan Barrero.
I have
Noted Democrat, Lester Holt.
No, that's true.
Or wait, no. He's a Republican.
He's allegedly a Republican, I guess. But did somebody actually check?
I think so,
know.
yeah.
In any case.
Enough Said.
The video does not give me absolute, definitive, visual evidence that would confirm that a person is pointing a gun. I did not see that in the videos that I reviewed.
Welcome back to another edition of Enough Said. Dan Barrero and Justin Guard here, and in the control room to set up our first very controversial subject is Lori Fisher. Hi, Lori.
Hi, guys. North Carolina is in the state of emergency over the fatal shooting of a black man. Charlotte police say he refused to drop a gun, but residents say he was unarmed. Calls for police to release the video have increased, as well as protests. The Vikings play there on Sunday. Dan.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to this thing, and I'm still, we'll maybe get to the security part later, because I still have some concerns about, you know, how bad things might get on Sunday and what they have in place. We've been in this position before, where I think one of the more depressing parts of this is that we talk about not rushing to judgment, except in the stories where we feel comfortable rushing to judgment. We talk about innocent till proven guilty, except for the stories where we feel like we can say guilty, prove that you're innocent. And we're in this again. We've got was it a book that the victim was holding, or was it a gun? Those are two rather different stories.
Yep.
And we may never get to the bottom of it. The video apparently is inconclusive on
whether the gun was pointed or not.
Exactly. Yep. And so already, though, we have had not only demonstrations, we've had at least one night of bad rioting. It was more calm last night. The night before was pathetic, what took place in the streets. And so there is no ability or willingness to say, let's at least, if you don't trust the process, let's just at least allow it to play out. And we've been here before. I understand the anger is real, but we can't even wait anymore to see whether a particular shooting fits the larger complaint about what happens between officers and African-American citizens.
How much of that is because they won't release the video, though? Because in Tulsa, which was a lot more conclusive,
right, and
that officer has already been charged, the video was released pretty quickly. People could see it. I think news cameras actually had it before anybody else. I go back and forth on what should be private in the investigation, what shouldn't be private, when they should release videos. But what I'm having trouble with is the officer basically saying, or the chief saying, I saw it, and I can't tell, and you're just going to have to take my word for it. I think that's where people get upset, right? Now, I know that the family has seen the video.
Family saw it last night.
And they even want it now released to the public.
Except that, don't they say, see, we always look for the magic answer in the video, and it seems to be more closely provided in Tulsa. A story that bothers me on the front end, in terms of what we already know about it, a lot more than what we don't know yet in Charlotte. But they basically said the same thing. And then we're back to, well, what else? If there's other evidence that might give us better indication, should that be released? And then you're in a position where you're trying the case. Where do you draw the line?
We have to move on.
Of trying to, I guess, quell the concerns that are there.
I would even say we're going to gather all of it, and at some point we're going to release it after, whatever. Kind of like Freeman did with Jamar Clark. He went through all of it.
Nobody's going to believe it. But see, that's the thing. Whatever you think on this story, I don't think it's going to change, regardless of the evidence.
We have to move on. The FBI is now investigating the stabbings at Crossroads Mall in St. Cloud. 10 people were wounded before an off-duty police officer shot the suspect. ISIS claimed responsibility right away, but those who knew the suspect say he wasn't radicalized and he was only at the mall to buy an iPhone. Dan?
Well, again, this one, I think we really do need a lot more information. We know what happened.
Yep.
And I've heard some people say that, well, this is what's really tragic about this story. This individual seemed very much a part of the culture. He was not separated from it, etc. I don't care whether you are, you feel like you're part of something or you're separated from it. When you go in to do what this individual is accused of having done and just start indiscriminately stabbing people, that's a bad thing. I think we can all agree, regardless. The circumstances, to me, it doesn't matter whether that person feels invested or not in the situation. We talked to Chief William Anderson, about this, and he made, I thought, a really important point here, is that regardless of where this goes in terms of what the motivation was, et cetera, even though we may have some clues, we don't have the whole story yet, you're back to, you don't go back, if you're in that area, you don't probably go back to that mall for a long time.
It's true.
Without feeling paranoid. And that might be ridiculous because this isn't going to probably happen a lot, but I think we're in this new reality where we're faced with the greater likelihood that that's the kind of thing you're going to be thinking about. And he said, to that extent, nothing's ever the same after a story like this.
No matter if it's St. Cloud or Minneapolis,
right.
You know, wherever it is, we always feel like that. We've talked about the Checkpoint Society for as long as we've done this show, because this is almost impossible to stop. If one lunatic wants to roll in there with the knife, just go around and indiscriminately stab people, you either have to hope he's not very skilled, which apparently he wasn't, luckily, and you have to hope that there's somebody doing diligence, whether it's an off-duty police officer or just a good citizen trying to help out. Those are the things. But the one thing you do have to have always, I think you just kind of hit on this, you do have to think about it, and you do have to have a plan, and you do have to wonder when you go to places that are, you know, popular with tourists or with the public and say, how would I get out of here? As weird as that sounds, you do have to think about that a little bit, and that is the saddest part.
Yeah, I mean, I find myself even in theaters bringing my daughter
every time.
I am paying more attention to exits.
Yes.
I am thinking about, I'm actually even sadly profiling, going, that guy left right before the movie started, and he left a bag. What is that about? And guess what? Most times it's going to be absolutely nothing, but it is where you start to.
It's what you think about,
These recent events are sure to come up at the first presidential debate this Monday night. It's taking place at Hofstra University in New York and moderated by Lester Holt of NBC. Dan, should these moderators play ref or fact checkers?
I have
noted Democrat Lester Holt.
No, that's true.
Or wait, no. He's a Republican.
He's allegedly a Republican, I guess. But did somebody actually check?
I think so.
Know.
Yeah.
In any case, I don't get the look. One of a journalist who I respect said, "Well, to not allow the journalist who's doing this to fact check is like basically sending a boxer into the ring and not allowing him to punch." And I said, "Wait a minute. You ain't the boxer. The boxers are the candidates.
The debaters.
You are the referee."
Yes.
And so, yes, within limits, part of what you should be doing is, I say, pushing back. I'm not as interested in always fact-checking as pushing back, playing devil's advocate to get things going. But I'm not as, I'm not hyperventilating as much about, we've got to make sure basically this is about challenging Trump.
Yes.
To a certain extent, I think, when a candidate doubles down on a position that can be easily proven false right after the debate, if it's not being during the debate, it reveals him to a degree. So, yeah, you push back some, but the event is not about you.
Exactly.
So you're a referee. You're not a boxer at all.
You're a moderator. You're a traffic cop. You want to make sure things are going smoothly. Would this be an issue had Matt Lauer not blown it with Trump like everybody thought he was?
Probably not, yeah.
I don't. But I'm going to defend Lauer a little bit and defend Holt in that. Totally different situation, totally different scenario, right? I know it was kind of a town hall forum that they were doing.
You're right, yeah.
But it wasn't a mano-y-mano or mano-y-womano debate where Lauer was just asking questions, and he was doing an interview as opposed to a debate. You ask questions, and for me, it's up to the candidates to kind of fact-check each other and push back, and I want to see how they respond to each other. I don't want a moderator. Where do you stop? Right. Then the moderator is going to insert himself or herself way more, and that's what I don't want that either.
There's going to be time for everybody to do the quote-unquote fact-check.
Yes.
And to me, the interesting thing, if you want to stay with the boxing analogy, with the first debate Monday, is Clinton's best strategy rope-a-dope? Is her best strategy to sort of hang on the ring and just on the ropes and just basically let him pummel and further reveal himself and expose himself to potentially a lot more criticism where people go, whoa, this is. But we should also mention one other thing real quick. The assumption that this is going to clinch it. Let's remember something. Remember the first Obama debate with Romney.
Yeah.
He got routed.
He did.
By all accounts, there were a number of lefties who were quite concerned.
Speaking of rope-a-dope, he just kind of hung back. He didn't do anything.
And guess what? Who won? I think Obama won that election.
He did, and he
so
showed
we
up
got to
in the
be
next
careful.
debate.
I know these are different dynamics, but I don't think it's automatic that this is going to determine the outcome necessarily. We got too many twists and turns before November.
And a lot more debates where the story.
It doesn't change anything that I do. I'm going to go into it just the same way I do every other game. And, on the other hand, it's something you would ask Coach Turner. I think we could stay with the same plays. And, I'm just looking forward to, doing what I can this week, having my team come out with a victory.
One of the guys who will have to carry the load for the Vikings, Jerick McKinnon, further proof that life will go on without Adrian Peterson and all the other players we've lost to injury already this season. Good news is that AP's surgery was a success. The bad news is he's going to be out for a few months. Are we going to be able to bounce back and keep on winning, guys?
I'm just impressed that they must have done Laurie and company must have done a heck of a deep dive to find McKinnon actually
making a guy miss,
break free
they
for
have a nice archive.
Long yardage. So kudos to the research department in that regard. Look, this was not expected, obviously, and Peterson, whatever you think of how much he's got left, had a role where, weirdly, even though he wasn't really gaining many yards, teams still were stacking the front. So, to me, yeah, I think they can fashion some kind of running game, but you got an offensive line that's a mess.
Yes.
And you got a quarterback who really doesn't move all that well. And so, in effect, if you're asking for more out of the passing game, I hope it's quicker passes and maybe even some out of the backfield of McKinnon who can catch the ball. Because otherwise, that's part of what we have to watch. I don't think there's any guarantee that we can become a team that throws 52 times.
No, you make a good point on the shorter passes. Even a year ago when Teddy Bridgewater kind of emerged, that's what changed offensively, right?
Norv listened to us.
They listened to you more specifically. You were all over that.
I hate to admit it.
You're a great football mind.
You forced me to.
Yeah. Throw short passes, quicker tempo stuff. Teddy was good at that. Now, the one X factor is Adrian was still in the ball game at that point. Adrian had a pretty good year for them last year.
Miss the blitzes,
Well, they didn't have time to blitz.
No,
they threw so quickly.
Almost 1,500 yards, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think 1,400, something like that.
Right.
The reason for this is not ideal to lose your quarterback, your left tackle, and your franchise running back.
Even though we all hate the left tackle, the fans do.
And people were bored with Adrian because he hadn't run the ball very well the first 2 weeks. That's not good at all. Now, the biggest reason for optimism, we've talked about this on the radio a lot, is that Mike Zimmer's still here, even though he has a torn meniscus.
Trust.
And his defense is very good. We think maybe even trending to great, to elite, to world class, whatever. And he's going to be able, I think, to keep these games close enough. Maybe not this weekend because Carolina's offense, especially at home, is insane.
Yep.
I think 40 points they're averaging their last 7.
I haven't faced Jim lately.
They haven't, not since here. Cam's only lost 4 games since the below zero game here a couple of Novembers ago. But Zimmer's going to have this defense ready to go as long as that side of the ball stays healthy. They'll be fine. They'll be okay, and it's up to Norv to figure out how to get points.
Zim's got A-Rod's number now.
He does.
And he may even have Cam's number. And you're right, the defense is why I think people aren't panicking at this particular point. It will be interesting to see how they evolve. And is Adrian Peterson done here? I mean, there's every reason to believe he's out for the season. He may try to think differently. And then you got contract issues for next year. You got age. And I think there's every reason to believe that even if he has to take a pay cut, he's going to be like a lot of guys. He'll prefer to take it with some other team.
Right.
Maybe the New England Patriots.
It'd be a great mix.
Than he does.
He could play quarterback there. It doesn't matter. I know we're going to get to that later.
Any difference?
32, another surgery, and a lot of money next year. That's not a great combination to bring him back, as important as he's been to the franchise. We were always targeting next season or this season as possibly the last, injury or no injury, because of that contract number next year, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, we've got to leave it there.
All right, we'll leave it there.
Yeah, from AP to KG, we were really excited when he came back to the Timberwolves. But possible buyout talks could mean his time here is coming to an end. Garnett is 40 now and has been with the NBA for 21 years, and training camp starts next week. Justin?
It's hard to believe how quickly things can change. We always say that, how fast things change, but Flip died less than a year ago.
Yeah.
I mean, think about where this franchise was a year ago in terms of who was running it, who was in charge. And I know he was away from the team as he was dealing with his illness.
Right.
But less than a year ago, the Garnett succession plan or whatever it was 100% in, right? He was back. He was going to try to play. He was going to try to play a lot, 15, 20 minutes a game every single night. We obviously know that didn't work out. We obviously know what happened with Flip. And now here we are, the honeymoon of the second homecoming is basically over from what it sounds like. And it is sad in a way, but I don't blame Glenn Taylor. I don't blame the Wolves. They had to do what they had to do to move on. And Garnett seems to be the one. You don't just go through a whole summer without communicating to anybody.
He's pouting
what you're going to do.
Childish.
I think, and as much as
even with all his equity.
Yes, and I love KG. I was a teenager when KG.
He's not being an adult.
He's not, and it's too bad because he can be so influential and so engaging on the positive side that it's too bad when it has to end like this. And maybe he'll come back at some point later down the road, but for right now, it doesn't seem.
The moral of the story is that KG came back for Flip.
Yes.
He did not come back for Taylor. There was bad blood. And Flip was a great ambassador. And so he was able to put it back together and say, you're with me. Well, that's what Garnett's got to understand. Flip, sadly, tragically, is not here. And so no one could have foreseen these circumstances. Taylor goes out and gets the best guy available. And so the fit isn't quite the same if KG can't play, which is clear he can't more than 10 or 15 games.
Right.
They can't waste another roster spot. So, you'd like to think he could rise above it, even if he's frustrated, that he understands that, well, it's a different set of circumstances here that no one could have foreseen or controlled, and so I'm going to move on gracefully here. And he's not moving on gracefully.
He's not, and I guess I'd forgotten about his bitterness with the organization from years and years, which almost makes me resent the whole thing more because they paid him a bunch of money.
Yeah.
They let him pick guys he wanted to bring in.
Scary way, because he made he was the guy obsessed with Joe Smith, among others.
And Troy Hudson, Trenton Hassel, and all these guys. And then they traded him to a team where his career got extended, number one, but also put him in a different category of players.
Absolutely.
Where
Finally got the ring.
He's not Karl Malone. He's not Charles Barkley. He's ahead of all those guys, and the Wolves made that move. So reading some stuff from 2012 when he came back here, talking about the bitterness he still had with the organization, that made no sense to me.
No.
I don't understand the bad blood on the front.
Enough said. Okay, let's get to a story I'm a little obsessed with, the Brad Pitt and Angelina divorce.
Jeez.
How many emails have you sent us?
It's a record.
In the last 24 hours.
We've never gotten an email early.
20 maybe. I don't know. I've
Started
been just
Monday
keeping
morning.
you guys up to date.
All right.
Basically, it started out with funny memes of Jennifer Aniston on Twitter, but then it moved to something more serious. TMZ is reporting that Brad Pitt was physically and verbally abusive to his kids on a flight that actually landed at a tarmac at International Falls Airport and then headed to L.A. Jolie filed for divorce the next day, and the couple's been together since 2005. They're Hollywood sweethearts after, the other scandals. What do you guys think about this?
Well, let's first applaud Lori's professionalism because this has been a tough week for her. We got an email on Monday. We never hear from Lori until Friday morning.
Okay,
about
take me
this
off
show.
camera now. It's on them.
Devastated.
So
by this whole
her eyes have been puffy all week. It's been a tough week for her.
I don't want to burst her bubble or anything, but we'll get to the accusations. But by the way, are the accusations coming from her or from someone else on?
That's a good
the child
question.
stuff?
I don't know
think
that.
that's an important part of this story.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's not true, but also needs to be factored into whatever's going on in their relationship.
And LAPD hasn't confirmed that either as of earlier today.
I think that's important.
Yep.
But as I understand this, and the other story, the other rumors, or has this been proven that he was messing around? Okay. How did Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt get together?
They met on a movie set.
Were they
Mr. and
messing
Mrs.
around
Smith.
while he was married? So now we're back to,
That's a rumor.
Should this be at all necessarily surprising? I don't want to burst Lori's bubble, but this is sort of like
It's Hollywood.
the more things change, the more they stay the same. So yeah, the abuse stuff is important and
Needs to be
serious.
followed.
But when we're into custody issues and divorce issues, I think we got to try to at least be fair to everybody and say, all right, where's that coming from? What other is there other evidence of it before we automatically make this about, well, now he's the most evil person in the world when a while ago we thought he was really, really, really cool.
Speaking of releasing videos, wouldn't you love to see the video from the tarmac of Brad Pitt apparently trying to get into
away.
the fuel truck?
Yeah, how about that?
I mean, it's almost like a scene out of
International
old school.
Falls.
Yeah, an International Falls fuel truck. I'd love a movie or a TV show made about that entire incident.
How did that not leak somehow? Isn't there video of all this stuff?
I
Or
would
the
think
falls,
so.
They don't gossip, apparently.
Well, maybe not.
What stays in the fall? No, what
happens in the falls stays in the falls. For all the serious stuff of it, I can't get out of my head him trying to get off the plane, running around apparently on the runway and trying to get into a fuel truck. That's a hilarious visual. Set aside all the real serious stuff.
I hate to say this, but I don't, whether it's fair or not, I don't trust any Hollywood relationships. I just don't.
No.
I'm sure there's some good ones, but it all seems so often contrived and bizarre.
Well, people
and you
in
make it up as
Hollywood
they
who
go
live
along.
there, they all say it's the fakest
and they
place in
don't
the world.
Many of them don't take care of their own. They don't even know their own kids, for God's sake, let alone take care of them. But I found out.
Welcome back to Enough Said. We're going to get right to the lightning round. You could call it Skittlegate. Donald Trump Jr. posting this on Twitter this week. If I had a bowl of Skittles and told you that just 3 would kill you, would you take a handful? He's comparing the Syrian refugee crisis to a bowl of poisoned Skittles. Mars Incorporated responds, Skittles are candy, refugees are people. It is an inappropriate analogy. Donald Trump is strongly opposed to allowing Syrian refugees into the United States. Guys?
I criticized the Trumps early and often, much to the chagrin of a few emailers, frankly. This is, to me, one of the most overrated, overcooked controversies in the history of Trump controversies.
I agree. There's enough real stuff to hit him with.
This is
whole
called,
family.
in the business, a metaphor.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It doesn't mean, and that's always the headline is, he's basically saying they're like human beings are like Skittles, and poison ones at that. What's the idiom? One bad apple spoils the barrel. Look it up, and it'll explain that it often refers to people. Is that saying people are like apples? No, it's
you better be
crazy.
careful.
We're in a crazy period
We are.
where, like I said, there's enough stuff to hammer him on. I thought, especially coming from the kid. Is
Next
this Trump
up.
Jr.?
I don't know. You're going to have an Apple company distancing themselves from
Colin
you, by the way.
Kaepernick says he's been getting death threats on social media since he started his protest of the national anthem last month. Justin.
Doesn't surprise
No.
me, I guess. I mean,
No.
death threats, it's hard. You know, you want to take them seriously,
And are
but
they
also,
real
are they
online?
real?
Yeah, right.
I mean, death threats get passed out all the time,
Yeah.
you know, for everybody. But, I mean, this is, you know, you never wish that someone gets death threats, but when you take a stand and you speak out,
Yeah.
that's why it's brave, so to speak. If people say it's brave to take a stand because you might get some pushback. Obviously, nobody wants Colin Kaepernick to be killed, but people are going to disagree with him.
Yeah.
People are going to say stuff. And the death threat thing, I think, it's too easy for someone to send a death threat now and not mean
Whether
it,
it
not
means
be
it or
serious.
anything, yeah.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I think the one thing I'll give Kaepernick credit for, I think, is he hasn't dropped it. He has given indication that he has given this issue some thought.
That's true.
And, you know, I'll at least, I will give him that, because in the front end, you're like, well, where'd this come from?
Right.
He's sustaining it. He's trying to explain in further detail
Next
where
up.
he's at, even if we did, you know, if we don't always agree with everything.
The
that he's saying.
Patriots won with a third-string quarterback. Best coach ever, Dan?
I don't
They
know
didn't
how
just
you,
win.
Well, here's the
they
new rule.
dominated.
They dominate.
Yeah,
A rookie from, is it NC State?
I think so.
The thing that would make the National Football League really interesting is that they institute a new rule in which Belichick would be required to start a different quarterback every week for 16 weeks, just for the hell of it, to see what he could do. 14-2. He might lose two. Who would
Maybe.
be the two losses? Ponder? Could he lose one with Ponder?
He could definitely lose one with Ponder if anybody could.
He could also win a bunch with Ponder.
Okay,
He could.
next up.
This is amazing,
It's
wasn't
been-
it?
it's
A
been
new
fun
study
to
doesn't
watch.
really tell us anything that new. We gain 1 to 2 pounds during the holidays, so you have to just watch out now, and it takes 5 months to burn it off. Justin?
Well, I'm curious when they start. You know, if it's right before Christmas or if it's right before Thanksgiving. I think people are lying on the surveys. If it's only 1 pound or
That
2,
seems light.
It does, doesn't it? Or they're not doing it right. They're not doing holidays
They're eating
like we
bean
do.
sprouts
Yeah, or
rather than-
asparagus
yeah.
and kale, and that has no place at the Guard family Thanksgiving. I know that. I'm impressed if it's just
Okay.
1 to 2 pounds.
And by the way, how much did they get to do the study? About 300,000?
Probably.
Not
Some
sure.
college,
I don't
I'm
know.
sure,
Big
yeah.
grant.
I'll have to check on that. Last up, you know those cute little carts at Target for the little kids, and then they run around and put groceries in? No more. They're being yanked. It was a pilot program, and there was too much negative feedback, guys.
I
There were
believe it.
brawls in the aisle.
Oh, yeah. Achilles
Kids were
snapped.
causing brawls. Here, you know what else they should do, in all honesty? You know those, they also, or is it Byerly's? At some of the stores, they've got these huge
With cars and
carts
everything?
where you're inside the car.
They got to keep those.
No.
No, they got to keep those.
Those are more lethal than the
no,
little ones.
but they're contained.
They're as wide as the aisle.
They're contained, and the parents can maneuver them a little bit. They are
Oh,
wide.
get rid
they
of
have
them.
to keep the car ones. Now, Target.
You
can
want to
do-
know why kids are self-absorbed? That's why. Get in the old-fashioned front of that cart like we used to and deal with it. If it's not comfortable, too bad.
They
That's
can
life.
do whatever they want with the carts. Target can, but they have to keep the